Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Freshly Pressed. Today we have with us Adriano Ariganello from Pesto Comics. Welcome to the show, Adriano.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So we would love to hear a bit about yourself. Can you give a brief introduction and how you got into comics? How you developed the love for the medium and a brief history about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like my first comic was, I used to deliver we have a newspaper around here, the Toronto Sun. Used to deliver that on Sundays, and they used to have a special pullout of just the comics. So the comic strips, really, like first one was Garfield. So that was my
Nice.
early introduction into comics. That was until I was introduced to the real thing. That's when my cousin would hand me over. At the time of my coming of age was death of Superman and all the stuff going on with X-Men, and like it was just a really mid 90s like perfect time to really get into the thick of things. So
Yeah.
I was lucky to have a cousin who was very into it and would throw copies my way, and that's really how I got into the whole thing. And
Nice.
then yeah, from there went to film school. But comics was still my number one. I went to film school and I made a documentary about trying to find comic books. So it never really left that part of my life. And then yeah, just always wanted to do it. Saw all this business going on with Kickstarter and thought, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's see what happens. And I gotta say, it's been going pretty well so far. I can't complain with the results. So yeah.
That's amazing. So, do you do you have a link to your documentary? Just
Oh,
send us a
that's
link to the
buried and
documentary.
hidden. No one will ever see that. It was yeah, it was an excuse for me to go. So I called it Finding the Black Bag, and it was basically I
Okay.
dragged a bunch of my fellow students with me to go around and try to find a sealed copy of Superman 75, which wasn't very difficult. I didn't challenge the premise before I thought it up. So by the
Yep.
first shop we had found it, and then we had to kind of try to make a story out of it. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it wasn't great, but hey, it was a good excuse to go to the shops around Toronto and pick up some stuff. But yeah, no one will ever see that. It's gone, buried. It's on a
But that's
DV tape
amazing.
somewhere.
The premise still sounds good. Maybe if we substitute it for a much more rare comic, I think it
Yeah,
would
it'd have to
still
be a
make
little
for
more
a pretty good
obscure, right?
movie.
Yeah, that's something that every shop has multiple copies of.
What would be an obscure comic? Not obscure, but maybe rare. I would
It would have to be
say.
rare. It would have to
Hmm.
be rare, but also not like horrifically expensive too, right? Like, so like if you're looking for any of the golden age stuff, like forget it. You need a budget of itself to try to find that.
That
But I
is
feel like the
true.
internet ruined a lot of that too, right? You could just Google it. There's half the fun gone. Who has it?
That
Oh,
is true.
there. Yeah. So not that I'm that old, but it wasn't that easy at the time.
All you need to do is go on eBay and look for it, right? Nowadays. So,
Exactly. Yeah. So it's that's a TikTok at this point. 30 seconds. Oh yeah, found it. Done. So
yeah. How do you find TikTok? I find it very overwhelming personally, but
I'm trying. I'm on TikTok. I have stuff, but it's really it's a opportunity to cross post for me. I'm not natively on TikTok. I do try to figure it out, but yeah, it's unfortunately Twitter's still my platform. It's or X or whatever. You know the it's not what it used to be. but it still seems to, the people that have stayed at least are still pretty cool. But yeah, it's a lot of people have run from the platform, so it's kind of upsetting
Yeah,
in that way.
yeah. That's social media in general, right? Like
True.
people say this is my like this is my platform of choice, and like some people like Blue Sky, some people like
Yeah,
Threads.
it's just not the same, right? And
No.
everybody on Blue Sky just complains that Twitter's not the same. So
I don't know.
yeah.
I tried to use Blue Sky for a couple of
Hmm.
months, and then I just gave up because one, obviously posting on five different platforms is just incredibly hard.
Yep.
Especially when you have to tailor things to say the platform, like Instagram is completely different to Threads or X, or and then
Yeah.
Blue Sky doesn't have videos, so I can't post videos, and I'm like, oh god, now I have to, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a strategy for like three or four different ways you're gonna post things, and then yeah, it's a job in itself just to keep up with all the different platforms. Just try to get everyone that used to just be on Twitter all at once. Like it's kind of depressing in that way. But hey,
Yeah, yeah, that's very, very true. I'm also a big fan of your work, by the way.
oh, thank you.
I loved your all your earlier books. I've read Unlimited Udo, and
Oh, I
also
appreciate that.
I haven't read Stay Cool just yet, but I think I
Oh
should.
no, all right.
I should
You
change
should. You
that.
should. You should. It's I think you'll enjoy it. If you enjoyed Unlimited Udo, it's different in a lot of ways, but it's still got my voice in there, and Raphael's art's really good. Uh,
Yeah.
unsurprisingly, really good. But yeah, uh, yeah. No, of course, I'm very biased, so you can't listen to my opinion. But I think you really like it. If you liked Unlimited Udo, it's in the same vein, a little more
Yep.
dark, I would say.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, it's fun. You should read it.
Awesome. But today we are here to talk about crazy latte thing called love. So tell us a bit about what's the comic about, and what's the premise, and
Yeah.
what's the story arc? Have you planned it further along in any for more issues and stuff?
Yeah, so this is actually one shot, so it's a fully contained 32-page story. So you know my past work. It's mostly been one shots. This is the last big one shot I'm going to do. The next I'll be coming out with series from here on out. So if you want a complete story, this is the one to get. Um, it's 32 pages. Mattia Monaco. If you're familiar with the follow up to Chicken Devil called Chicken Devils, he's the artist on that. It was excellent. So it was actually, I found him by chance. He was looking for work. He posted the pages of Chicken Devils right after I had seen it, saying, "Hey, I'm looking for work," and I immediately ran to him and said, "I have something for you. I have something for you." So this was written with him in mind for his style, and yeah, it's a story of love at first sight, but it may only be a one way love at first sight. So I think that cover kind of gives you the sense of how that may play out. And,
Yep.
the person he falls in love with isn't necessarily, who he thinks she is. So it's what comes of that and all the kind of danger and trouble he gets himself into, falling
Nice.
head over heels for a complete stranger. So yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
yeah, it should be a lot of fun. The art's incredible. Like, I mean, I had no hand in the art. I just tell Matthias some very basic things, and he ran with it and really put something amazing together. Like the pages get even more crazy than this. This is pretty, you know, regular and mundane in terms of where we go with it. It gets a lot more crazy. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend anyone who wants a
Even
nice tight story to check it out.
that's amazing. Even in these pages, the amount of detailing that's done
Diversity.
just to set the environment up is incredible. Like you can actually make out how beautifully drawn that house is, like or that kitchen. There is just done really
It,
well. So
yeah, I'm so impressed with it because I didn't give him any of this level of detail. It was just straightforward, leave him in the kitchen in front of his broken coffee machine, and he ran with it. And you know,
Okay.
what, and drew everything you see there. So none of that credit goes to me. The lettering's me, but the art is all Mattia. Like that's all coming out of his brain on some very very loose prompts from me. So very impressed with how he was able to kind of build this whole world. And yeah, he does it end to end. From the art to the coloring and all that, and so
Yeah.
all the palette choices, all that. Just yeah, dude's a master. Like it's
Beautiful.
it's very
Yeah.
impressive how it turned out. I'm very happy with it.
No, I actually love the whole pastel palette of it. It is actually very different. So I think I've seen a lot of comic books lately have like a very neon kind of palette, but
Mm-hmm.
choosing pastel is actually incredibly brave because then you kind of risk uh, to lose some of the seriousness of your work, but I think he
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes it work really well. So yeah, I like I'm actually pretty impressed with how beautiful the pages come out with even with that like pastel palette. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It honestly it suits the story very well. Like it's not something that he, picked out of the blue. It's
Mm,
like that for a reason. And yeah, once you read it, you really see why. But yeah, it's again, every time I would get a email with a new page, I was blown away. Right. So
yeah,
and now I'm getting the colored pages in, and it's continuing. So it's been great.
that is amazing. You also got Will Robson to do the variant covers.
Yeah, so Will Robson does the we call it the groovy variant. So that's the Army of Darkness homage cover, and so
Nice.
Will Robson did that one. It's incredible. It's uh, yeah, like he nailed it. I kind of just he was on Twitter one day saying, "Hey, I got some free time." So again, jumped on it. Just said, "Hey man, I've been a fan for a long time. I got a crazy idea. You think you can do it?" And yeah, he doesn't even do this type of like art typically, right? Like
Yeah,
he doesn't do the like painted style, and he nailed it. Like it's
yeah,
so good. So
yeah.
so yeah, very happy with this variant. People were
Nice.
this is of the variants seems to be the most popular. Um,
Yeah, yeah, for
Unsurprisingly,
sure. For sure.
right?
Unsurprisingly, it came out so pretty. I think
Yeah.
it does. When I first looked at it, I didn't think of it that way because it was obviously, I felt like it was a bit of his wheelhouse because when I first interviewed him, he told that his style, he was chosen by Todd McFarlane because his style was very comedic,
Hmm.
and he was asked to do things that are like horror and comedy crossover. So it
Yeah.
kind of felt like Army of Darkness is probably a perfect wheelhouse for for his style.
Oh yeah, I knew I didn't have to. I didn't have to explain it to him or anything. It's like, dude, this is for you. But I was expecting it to be more in his style, and he just like went for the style of the poster and like nailed it. Right. So yeah, super impressed with it. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, like you said,
The,
like there's a reason why he got that cover.
yeah, and even the variety of variant covers you have is actually quite crazy. Like the styles, like
Yeah.
every each one of them are so distinct. They're stunning to look at. Um, I know you have a mock-up of the book in yeah, hardbound, and I think they will just look stunning in hardbound. So yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna really pop. I think when they're all printed and nice glossy covers, and those will really look great. I think, and yeah, like you said, all very different. A lesson I may have learned from a previous campaign, because if you look at some of the previous work, Stay Cool, I think every cover was of kind of the same cover three times. So I learned that lesson. Everybody got a different assignment this time,
Yeah.
and then the styles really contrast as well. So you're not going to confuse one for the other. Um, but these first two are both Mattia, and even he went and did two totally
Mm,
different styles, which is nuts. So yeah,
that's
dude,
so
dude's
good.
super talented. Yeah.
That's amazing. Awesome. Tell us a bit more about other reward tiers. Oh, I sorry. Before the next question, I absolutely
Sure.
love the La La Land variant cover.
I'm glad you like that. That's a personal favorite for me. Yeah. So so this one was this one I actually did in reverse. So I have Deborah. Uh, oh man, Lancianese is her name. Deborah Lancianese. I have her working on a different project, like a future project with me. So I got her to do a cover for that one, and then she did so quick that I'm like, you know what? I didn't want to rush you, but I think you could probably whip this together, you know, well ahead of when I need it for. Which she did. And she was in the midst of a move. Like she was moving somewhere in Italy across town. And like, has me bugging her saying, hey, where's that cover? Where's that cover? But like, yeah, knocked it out of the park. Like, you know, color
So
palettes,
good.
all that stuff is beautiful. Like, right, spot on. But yeah, so this was like I almost regretted not doing it, and then she was available, so I'm like, you know what? Yes, we're gonna do that cover. That's the one I want. I don't think I'll get to do something like that again. That'll make sense. So we got it in there. But yeah, glad
So
you like
good.
it.
That's amazing. No, I love it. So good. Yeah. Awesome. Tell us a bit more about the reward tiers that you have
Yeah.
on the
So
campaign.
so we have it's pretty straightforward, right? We have our digital, so you can just get a copy of the comic itself of Crazy Latte thing called Love. Just get a digital copy, DRM free. I'm pretty crazy about how I deliver it, so I'll give it to you in Dropbox, Google Drive. However, I'll make sure you get it. You're gonna get it. And then if you want everything I've done, um, that's one tier up. So I can send you everything digitally, so you can just get caught up. I'll send you everything that I've done so far. Then we get into the actual physical copies. So first note I'll mention about all of this: the price you see is the price you pay. Um, Shipping's included, regardless of where you're from. I got a really good deal with shipping. I don't know how. Usually Canadians don't get a good deal with anything, but somehow I found a shipping company that gives us really good deals to ship things out. So
That's
passing
amazing.
it on, right? So what you see is what you get. So you could pick your cover, get one or the other. Or if you want to save some money, which I always recommend because it's not something I'm going to replicate on like my personal website or anything like that. Like the Kickstarter is where to do it. So if you want to save some money, you can get everything in a bundle, and then I'll just ship all of them to you. So you can get all the covers, or there's all kinds of different ones. So you could get um, one copy of everything I've done, right? All the main covers from Pesto Comics from me. You can get the work that Mattia and I have done together because this is our second project. So you can just get those covers, or you can get everything, like everything, every variant cover, everything I offer, and you get that all
That's
in one
amazing.
package. So we've had a couple folks who did that who are going to be getting a very large box that I'm going to regret having to include shipping on, but I'm doing it. so so yeah, wherever you're from, the price you see there, that's what it's going to be. With
That's
the
so
caveat that
cool.
the rewards, I put those on mid May. So if the exchange rate isn't quite what you see in the picture, go with what Kickstarter says. But nonetheless, what you see on the Kickstarter page, I'm not coming after with the backer kit and asking for extra. Right? Like backer kit's just going to be a confirmation, or if you want to add some add-ons or whatever. But as far as shipping goes, covered. It's here. It's done. So if you want to get everything or you want to get one thing, it's all coming. And we've already hit some of our stretch goals. So those packages are getting heavier and heavier every day. So going to regret this, but I'm happy. I want people to make me regret it. It means we're doing well.
That's
So
so
yeah.
good. No, I think I'll take you up on that. I'll probably back some physical ones because I think the biggest
Yeah.
thing that always stops me from backing physical books is the shipping cost, and it's yeah, to ship to
I get
Australia
it.
is like yeah, it's you
It
pay
could
an
be
arm and
bad.
leg
Yeah.
to
It could be pretty bad. It's same with Canada. It's honestly shocking because
yeah.
to ship to the U.S. is the cheapest for me. I can ship something to California from Toronto, and it's cheaper than shipping something from California to Toronto than it is from Toronto to Toronto. Like I could walk it
Wow.
over. and that will cost me more than shipping it to somewhere in Hollywood. It makes no sense, but that's just
No.
how it works. So yeah, so we get nailed for shipping constantly, which is why I'm so shocked that we get such good deals shipping out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna
That's
pass that on
amazing.
while I can. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think good on you. Good on you for passing that on. I'm pretty sure the backers and readers will appreciate that, especially in this economy where people are actually trying to, spend less, make like, save more money. So
yeah,
yeah,
but nothing's worse than getting hit with the bill after the fact, right? Like you support the campaign, and then 3 months later you get a backer kit, and it says, "Hey, it's an extra $20 for that $10 comic," right? Like that's the worst feeling. So I didn't want that. I
yes,
didn't want anybody to feel that, right? I just want them to like they spend the money and then they know something's coming, right? They don't have
that's
to think about
amazing.
it anymore. So
If not for anything, get on it for that.
yeah, yeah.
But
I hope
get
that helps ease some minds, right?
exactly, exactly. That's awesome. So even now, like, so you said you've just written one shot still now, like, what's your writing process like? I know you post a lot about writing online
hmm
on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else, but what's usually your writing process of writing a one shot? Because I personally feel writing a one shot is way harder than writing a series or
Yeah,
like a longer arc. Yeah.
you definitely don't have yeah you don't have the room. Like every page becomes very precious, right? So so that's where you're. I don't know if you know the whole plotter pantser debate of like how people write. So like I'm hardcore plotter. Like I need to
Okay.
know what happens on every page, what happens even to the panel before I even start thinking about like writing out a full script with dialogue and all that. Like I plan it to death, and then I'll really start like playing with it, and I'll move things around and all that. But I'm very much like I start in a spreadsheet. That's how
Oh
spreadsheet
wow.
with pages, and I make sure I'm hitting my beats, and I make sure things are happening on the right page. Things are happening for the page turn because that's a, you know, and now with digital it's even more complicated because there's the page turn and then there's the digital page turn, which is every page, right? So you have to
Yes.
have a cliffhanger on every page, but a bigger cliffhanger on every other page. So
Yep.
a lot to factor in, but I like the challenge. It's like kind of it's like molding clay. Like you're slowly putting it together until you get the shape of something that looks like what you're going for, right? So that's
Yep.
kind of the idea. Is that
That's amazing.
I before I ever start, I know where I'm headed.
You know what? I think I tried to write one self-contained novel before, and I try to approach short stories and novels or like longer story arcs, which or shorter story arcs differently, because I like to plan, but not that much. So it's a weird thing.
Yeah,
I like to write a lot of character backstories. So first I write when I initially flesh out the characters, I see if it's a short story, then I know they are going to be in the middle of something because
yeah,
I don't have time to set up the world. But if I'm writing a longer form, say a novel or like a full story, a comic with multiple issues, then I like to actually draw the timeline and then
sure.
say this is where the character starts, this is where they end, but then how do they actually reach there is how I have to fill the gaps and build the story. uh, so I like to decide this the beginning at the end and the end to start with, and that's the really hard part for me because obviously
Yeah,
like ending sometimes changes, but by the time you fill the gaps, ending might change altogether. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a
exactly.
good. Yeah.
I appreciate that style. I like it. I've tried it myself, right? I find I do get like yeah, like the risk with that is you're trying to contain like a one shot. I have 32 pages. I'll have 170-page comic by the end of that if I'm doing it for comics, right? Or if I'm writing a novel, like it's going to be way too long because let's go down this tangent, let's go down there. Oh, it'd be great if this happened, and So that's why I need like the guide rails that are going to keep me to where I'm headed, so I know how to get there. I know what I'm writing today. Otherwise, yeah, yeah, I can write something forever and never get to the
Yeah.
point if I don't know where I'm going. so so yeah, to me it's really important to plot and know where and why and how and who.
Yeah.
All that business is figured out well before I ever actually start the writing. But
No, I
I
totally agree
totally
with you.
I love the other way, just for exercise. But yeah, for actually getting something completed, can't it does not work for me.
No, no. I'm sure it won't work for one shots because I haven't tried writing one, so I don't know. But it does, like, yeah, it does get out of hand. Yeah, pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. You have to, and right, like time is precious when we're on a one shot. Like you got to hit all your points real quick, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
very important that you know where you're headed.
But man, 32 pages are so quick. Like when you pick up a book and you finish your 32 pages, you're like, some if the book is good, you can end up finishing that in like 15 minutes, the whole thing.
Yeah,
And if not, then the comics are a weird thing. If you don't like one, then I'm pretty sure you'll drop off after like page 3 or page 4 and never revisit
it
it. Like,
isn't it impressive how that could happen? It's like it's not terribly long, and you'll still be like, I can't finish this.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like but if you're reading a novel, you'll read 100 pages before you decide to like drop it. Like you're not gonna go three
yeah,
pages in and go, okay, I don't like. You'll give it the time, but for a comic, it's yeah, you're right. You get like 2-3 pages. It's like, all right, this isn't going anywhere. But it's like, but it's
yeah,
barely started. Like, how could you make that this? But like, I say that, dude, I'm the same, right? I'll flip through and be like, oh, I can't get through this, right? So
yeah.
yeah, I totally get it. It's very important, but that's where the page
The
turn
challenge
and
is, yeah,
all that is very becomes very very important because it's usually missing that, right?
yeah,
If you're feeling that way so early, that wasn't put into consideration, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
there's an
perfect.
art to it, right?
Oh, it is. It totally is. Comic writing is so much harder than and like and you're also coming from a film school of thought. I've spoken with other people who have come from like different perspectives and approach the material differently, like the whole medium differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think there's one. I would say like writing a comic is kind of like writing a short film because in a way that
Yeah,
you have to grab the attention pretty quickly and then hold on to it for the rest of the time that the person is reading it.
yeah,
So yeah, it's very much like writing like a 10 or 15-minute short film.
yeah. It's a constant struggle, and again, unlike a novel, like where you'll read the chapter at least, like every page is a chance for you to stop, right? Like you
Yes.
flip the page and you could just be like, all right, that's where I'm ending it. A novel you'll give it a whole chapter, give you the longest boring chapter, but you'll probably read the whole thing. Like a comic, you get a page, so so you got to keep people. You got to try to keep them the whole time. So yeah, it's a challenge, but I love it. I love the challenge.
Yeah,
It's it's what I'm
that's
here for.
amazing. That's amazing. I have a curious question around like how did you make a crossover from films to comics? Like, was it a hard transition for you? Like, did you have to change your mindset as a writer to cross over the mediums?
You would think so, but for me, it was always like comics was always the like I looked at like the Kevin Smith thing, like his
Mm.
career, and I'm like, he went and he made movies, and then he got to write comics. And that's where I was. I foolishly as it may be, I'm like, I'll make a name like in film, and then I'll get to write comics finally. So it was I don't it was always on my mind that like comics was where I wanted to be. It was never the
Mm,
you know, it was the destination. It was never like a stepping stone onto film or it's always the other way around. I thought so in Toronto, we have a pretty good film industry. Like even my wife works in the film
mm,
industry. So to me, I saw that. Like I saw everybody working in the film industry here. So I'm like, oh, that's where like that's the real job I will do. And then
mm.
I'll do the comics. Like that'll be my passion. So I did neither. But so now I'm here with the comics. But yeah, like it was again, 18-year-old me didn't always know what he was talking about. So that's how we got where we are.
That's
But
true.
uh but yeah.
We're glad that you got here because
Well,
you've been
thank you.
making some amazing comics.
I appreciate that, and more to come. More to come.
More to come.
This was a long gap between the last two. It won't be that long. Again, that's the plan.
Well, yeah, no, I think I hope there's not a big gap, but I can totally understand running a Kickstarter or any crowdfunding for that matter is pretty daunting, and like it's a huge undertaking. So yeah, just get hitting those right notes is really important, and
Hmm.
yeah, till the time you're feeling confident about it, it's there's actually no point doing it. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like it is. It's an investment both in time and money and stress and all that, right? Like so, it's not risk free. But I'm glad I'm here, and now I feel like I've got my footing under me. I have a couple projects on the go already, so everything's kind of rolling now. Everything's rolling. Things
nice,
will be coming out regularly, which is good. But
nice.
yeah, so and
Do
yeah, very happy with this how this one's going.
Nice. I will definitely have you more on the show with your future projects, but do you want to give a little sneak peek on what you're working on, like in terms of just give the listeners a bit of a nugget on what you're working on next?
So haven't revealed much, but I'll tell you a little bit. So I have two projects. Two projects. Both of them are 5-part series. Uh, One of them is with an artist I haven't worked with before, um, and then the other one is with. I'll just spoil it. The other one's with Raphael Christiani. So, yeah, I know you said you haven't read Stay Cool yet. If you do, I hope you like the art because there's 5 more issues of that coming. And I got him to do something. So, Stay Cool was written with him in mind, but this latest project was something that was even more in his wheelhouse. Was something I after talking with him was like, "What's the kind of things you like to draw?" And this was something we worked on together. So 5 pages of something really, really epic that should be coming. But
Nice,
I haven't said anything about it yet. So you've already heard a lot more than anyone else has. But yeah, not ready to share too much. But soon, very soon, yeah, more information will be coming. But yeah, like so at least 10 new comics coming for me over the next little while between the two series. So
that's
yeah,
very
lots to come.
exciting. Yeah, you heard
Very
it here
excited.
first,
Yeah, I'm,
folks.
I'm thrilled. That's it. You got the
Yeah,
exclusive. Well done.
that's awesome. Great. So yeah, let's segue into another segment where I love to ask people what are their top five pop culture things. Could be anything from like comics or games or movies or um, stuff that basically defines, maybe like inspires you or maybe defines what your style is or what your work is about. So yeah.
Yeah. So, what's a good one? So, talking about like movies, right? So, film school, like type of stuff that inspired me. Uh, Michael Mann's Collateral. Have you ever watched that with Tom Cruise and Jamie
Ah,
Foxx
I love that movie.
driving around
Yeah,
LA? Yeah, and it's the simplicity of it, right? That it's just like you don't see much. You're kind of trapped in that cab. You know something horrible is happening. It's that tension and that dread.
Yeah.
It's what I've been talking about with the comics, right? You gotta keep people turning the pages.
Yeah.
That's the film version of that. It's like you feel that tension throughout, like the entire time, and that like blew my mind, right? So to this day, it's one
Yeah.
of my favorites. That really hit me, right? Like it's like this is the type of storytelling I need to do. Like it doesn't need to be the whole universe fighting the whole universe. It could just be two
Yeah.
people like in a car, and you have no idea what's going to happen. It feels like the whole world is crashing in on you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I really like that style and that because you can only
That's
up
such
the
a good
stakes so
choice.
like right? You can only up the stakes so much.
Yeah.
Look at the MCU now. It's like the universe has exploded and folded on itself 10 times, and now it's like, well, now
Yeah.
nothing feels like it's important anymore. Um,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
So
mean, yeah, that's very true. And I don't mean to sidetrack this at all, but like you said,
sure,
there's like the stakes last time were so high that it just cannot get higher than that. It's just how higher can you get than
right?
like half of the universe disappearing? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's no coming
Yeah.
back from that. So the
Yeah.
best stories end up being the personal ones at that point, right? Because now it's like the stakes of the one or the world, right?
Yeah.
That's the only
Yeah.
way you can bring it back. So yeah, it's I find comics does it too, right? Like with their annual events and that, like you can only end the world so many times. So it's the smaller stories that end up being interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know I'm a big fan of that. That movie is kind of really encapsulates that feeling that I
Yeah.
have. So yeah,
As a storyteller as well, I think it's more demanding in terms of like as a filmmaker, it's more demanding for the actors, for the writers, everyone to actually give it their best, because then if any one of those things don't work, it'll just take the viewers out of the movie, and they'll not finding interesting at all. So everything has to
yeah,
hit the right beats, because it's so stripped down, just two characters in a setting. So everything has to revolve around that, and if one of those things don't work, then it's off. So it's
yeah,
really good. That movie is actually a very good example in building tension. So yeah, great choice.
right. And it's done so like there's just not much to it, and it does it so well. All right, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
easily one of my favorites. I love that movie. Yeah, that inspired me to like go to film school. That's how great that was.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. What else we got? Uh, hmm. So if we're talking, oh man, I had it at the top tip of my tongue and I just lost it.
Maybe move on to the next one, and then maybe you'll remember
Yeah. Okay.
it.
Let's move to the next one. So if we're talking books, actually, okay. I think I got it back. So Dexter, right? So Dexter,
Ah,
the television show, I absolutely love. Like Michael C. Hall, like embodies that character so well, like redefines it. But the as good as the TV show is, the books. If you read the book series, like the prose, like Jeff Lindsay's prose in that, like I it upsets me. Like it makes me not want to be a writer because he's so good. Like he's so lyrical while still being like again like very encapsulating, very like just the way he writes. Like you can't help but continue to read it. Like you just want to know what's coming, what's happening, but he does it
yeah.
so lyrically, right? Like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I could never replicate it. Like he's got just such a style that is
Yeah.
so his own that like it's just not it's not something that's easily replicated well. You see people try to do it and they kind of lose the plot or the it's like okay, get to the point. Like yes, it's a very beautiful sky. You've told me enough about it. Let's move on. Right? Where like everything matters and everything kind of flows and it's just
Yeah.
so well done. So I feel like the TV show did it really well um, with the narration. Like they
Mm.
almost got it, but and then Michael C. Hall makes it his own thing. But the books are like, if you enjoy the show, You have to read the books, and they go in a totally
Nice.
different, not unlike The Walking Dead kind of split and became its own thing. The books are the same. It's like by book two, it's a totally different story, with
Wow.
different, with similarities, but they go in their own path. So highly recommend reading those books if you haven't. Like I think there's seven of
Nice.
them. Yeah, lots. So if you're missing the show and it was good, that's because I heard those
Nice.
last two seasons weren't great. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. Big fan of those.
I love it when people write a series and every book follows the same story, but or maybe the same storyline, but they change genres, or maybe they change like the way they approach the material in every book. Because I think I
Hmm.
interviewed somebody a while ago, and they wrote the story about a world where kids are born with superpowers, and then there's this whole agency, like a child protective agency, who go in and help parents with kids with superpowers. So that's the story about. But then they have like the first issue is like a buddy cop thing, and the second issue is more like an action adventure, and the third one is
Nice.
more like. So yeah, they've switched up genres with every book, but the story flows in the same way. So I love when people do that. So
That's without spoiling anything. I'm glad you said that. But I may have a series for you in the future. Very similar approach. So yeah, uh,
nice.
yeah. I think you'll be happy with how I'm what's coming out with yeah, what we're doing.
That's
So
amazing. That's amazing. I truly appreciate that. And yeah, next one. Let's go to the third one. Yeah.
let's do the next one. All right, let's talk video games. So Hades, have you played Hades? Have you seen it?
I'm
So
not
good.
much of a gamer. I'm sorry about that,
Oh
but
no,
but
eh?
but do tell about that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Hades is like a oh, what do they call it now? It's like a Metroidvania, but that's probably not right. I'm gonna get slapped for that. But basically, every time you play the game, the map changes on you, right? So it's a totally different game constantly. But it's not about that. Like as fun as the game is, and the mechanics are great, it's really fun to play. It's the story of this demigod trying to get out of Hades to go find his mother, and just like the every all the gods that try to prevent him from doing so. It's got this like really cool like anime style. So like if you're a comics fan, like you have to play the game. Like it's the story is a huge part of it, and the voice acting and everything involved is just it's so expertly done. It's like a I guess it's an indie game, not a
Mm,
it's done by a studio, but not like EA. Like it's kind of those mid grade.
mm.
Like the I guess Image Comics would be the comparison if you're talking
Yeah.
comics. So it's that level, and it's so expertly done. It won a ton of game of the. I'm not saying anything new here. It won like game of the year awards all over the place, and I'm not telling you some discovery, some obscure game, but absolutely love that game. I was addicted to it for the longest time just because that story ropes you in, and like I'm not one. I'm one to like I get bored, right? I
Yeah.
play half a game. I'm like, this story isn't going anywhere. You're just trying to like rope me in to go collect whatever, and I'm over it. This one like had me going and replaying it like over and over and over because it was just like it was so good, so well done. So yeah, Hades, highly recommend Hades. It's on
Nice.
every platform if you're ever interested.
Cool.
Right on.
Awesome.
Where am I at? I'm at three. Was that
No,
three?
free. Yeah, yeah. Two more to go.
Two more to go. Okay, we'll talk TV. Like I technically talk
Nice.
TV with Dexter, but I'm gonna talk
That's
TV
okay.
specifically. So it's always sunny in Philadelphia. That show,
Ah,
I don't know. It's
nice.
been on. It's the longest running comedy show. I don't even know if it's a comedy show. I think it's the longest running show on television outside of The Simpsons, right? Like live action, it's the longest running show. It beat Dallas. It beat all those shows, and yet I'm shocked how few people know about it. It's been on the longest time. It's a very specific kind of. It's a very like awful and rude kind of humor. I love it, but I understand why people may not like it. But the fact that
Yeah.
so many people don't even know it exists blows my mind.
I'm
So
pretty sure it's doing all right. Like if it been on air for so long.
yeah, you would think so, right? But and now with this Welcome to Wrexham, so if you're familiar with that whole thing with Ryan Reynolds, like,
Yeah.
and it's Ryan Reynolds and the other guy, but the other guy has the longest running show on television, longest running live action show. So, and still nobody knows about the show. It blows my mind, but it's a very
Uh,
specific brand of comedy. So if you get offended easily, do not watch it. But otherwise, like, it's gold. I rewatched every time a new season comes out. Me and my wife watch the whole thing beginning to end again, and it's always hilarious. It's such a good
that's
show.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I can't recommend it enough. All right, I saved comics for last. So yeah, so man, this was a hard one to pick because, like, so I've been collecting like Triangle era Superman for the longest time. So
Mm.
like I'm like I got to pick one of those, but no, I'm not going to. Um, like 90 Superman's my jam. That's what I'm
Yep.
into. But but I'm gonna pick something different. So I don't know if you've read Step by Bloody Step by Cy Spurrier. It came out, I
Yeah.
think it was a couple years ago. Like wordless, like just amazing. I what he was able to do, like again, telling a story without relying on any dialogue and just making it like so like soul crushing, right? And so poignant,
Wow.
and just with like expressions and looks and all that, like it was a masterpiece. It's so good. And again, it came out and people read it, and now it's kind of, I feel like nobody talks about it anymore. And I'm like, how? This should be a classic. This should be taught in schools. It's so damn good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Step by Bloody Step. Highly recommend that book. It's so good. It's like unbelievably good.
That's
If you
so
haven't checked
good.
it out, it's an easy read because there's nothing to read. But like you
Yeah.
can go through
I
that book
mean,
4 or 5 times and get something out of it that you missed the first time, over and over and
that's
over. Like,
fantastic.
yeah, such a fan of that book.
That's amazing. Yeah. You need to link me to it. I'll definitely give it a read. That's
Yeah, for
amazing.
sure, sure. I'll send it your way.
One of the books that it's not really a minimalistic book, but I think it's very stripped down in terms of how it tells the story. Is Stray Bullets. I don't know if you have ever read those.
Yes, yeah.
I
Again, like,
so beautifully told stories. There, a lot of stories in Stray Bullets are actually soul crushing. They're like, yeah,
right?
you'll be like, yeah, but yeah,
Yeah, it's like
it's been
I don't
told.
know if I want to like reread too often, but like that first read is so like, yeah, it's like, oh, you got me.
Yeah,
Right? But it's a skill. It's a skill.
it's a
Yeah,
skill.
it's
Yeah,
it's easy to over dialogue, I find, or to really like, but it's it's a visual medium. You gotta,
yeah,
and as a writer, it's really hard to just be like, okay, I trust you. I trust you to get my points across without me having to then come out and explain it, right?
yeah,
And you get the right artist, and like magic happens, right? So, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I
That's
feel bad because I'm like, well, I just told him to, you know, I told him to make this feeling happen, and he did. I didn't really do much else. I just wrote some words and said, make them feel that they do it. So, yeah, I sometimes I feel bad about it, but
no, no. You still do a lot. You're doing lettering. It's criminal how underrated lettering is. Like yeah,
it can
it's
ruin a
such
book.
an
So you could have the best artist, and you get some bad lettering, and you might as well throw the whole book out. So yeah, it was something. It's like, you want it done right, do it yourself, kind of thing. That was the that was the mantra I had. It's like I'm going, and not like I'm just gonna do it. It was, no, I'm going to learn to do this properly. So that was my approach. So I think I've become a pretty decent letterer. Not, I won't say I'm the best, but I'm getting there. I'm pretty good. I think good enough that I'm happy with the result. Um, but yeah, like lettering is, yeah, it should be like a referee, right?
yeah,
Like if it's doing its job, you don't notice it. So
yeah,
that's my goal, right? Like it should complement, it shouldn't distract.
yeah.
So
Exactly,
hopefully I'm doing
exactly.
that right.
No, no, you're doing it well. So if you have lettered all your books before, you've done it well. So so
I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. No. That sounds good. We're coming close to time, but before we go, I would like to give you the stage and quickly pitch, like do an elevator pitch of the book and the campaign, and why should people back it? So yeah, take it away. The stage is yours.
Right on. So, hi everybody. So, Crazy Latte Thing Called Love is on Kickstarter until June 9th. We have 5 different variant covers from artists from all over the world. Not only that, but you can get all kinds of bundles and deals and things that aren't going to be replicated elsewhere. So if you want to collect everything that's out there from all these incredible artists, the Kickstarter is where you want to go. Not only that, but shipping's included. And we just passed a bunch of stretch goals, so I'm filling those packages with all kinds of things that are just going to make them heavier and make the shipping more expensive for me. But I'm going to get it to you. So, now's the time. This doesn't happen elsewhere. You could visit my store and try to buy this after the fact. It's going to cost you a lot more than just supporting the Kickstarter now, getting on board, and yeah, seeing everything that we have to offer. It's a great story. It's a one shot. You can sit down, read it in one sitting, and really enjoy it. But the Kickstarter, you got till June 9th. So I would highly recommend checking that out before it ends because these deals aren't coming back. So
Nice.
June 9th, that's the time. Crazy Latte Thing Called Love. Find it on Kickstarter.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Adriano. I truly appreciate it, and I hope everyone had a great time. And yeah,
Thanks for having me.
all the
I
best
really
for the
appreciate
rest
it.
of your campaign. Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome. Bye.